Joining me is one of the stars of the show, Nancy Anderson, who plays Lois Lane. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for sparing the time. This is a great show, isn't it?
I think it's fantastic. Of course, I'm biased because I'm in it.
You've been in it a long time as well.
Yes, I've been in it here in London since it opened in October, but before that I was doing the American National Tour, which started rehearsals in last May, and we toured. I was with it for June, July, and August until they suddenly called me and said I have to come straight away to London.
Were you pleased to get that call?
Oh, it was a dream come true. Recently in my life, it seems that I say things and they come true. I don't want to jinx it. Knock on counter. But yeah, I remember well over about 2 years ago, maybe a little less, I said, I want to go on a national tour. And then I suddenly booked a national tour. And then they were talking about casting the show for London. And I thought to myself, I'd love to go to London. And then the next thing I know, it's a nice lucky streak, I guess.
Touring a show must be quite difficult to doing it in the same place for a long while, because at least you've got a different venue every couple of weeks. What's it like being in the same place for months on end?
Well, I think it's probably more ideal to be in the same place. Living out of a suitcase is not for everybody. I enjoyed it, but you know, having to deal with a whole new stage and a new backstage area, different dressing rooms. You know, on tour it was. It seemed like every couple of weeks it was the actor's nightmare all over again. That you're in your dressing room and you had no idea how to get to the stage, but you could hear your cue. So it's really been lovely to be able to come here and set up a life and have a home and your coffee shop and your grocery store and be able to go to work like a normal person. Oh,
come on, you must have seen a Starbucks before you came to London.
Unfortunately, I'm from New York, and the only stores we have are Starbucks and Gaps. But no, my co-star and I try to make it a point to go to anywhere but Starbucks. Maybe I shouldn't say that on live radio.
I suppose it must be interesting for you, because you were born in Massachusetts, is that right?
That's right, right outside of Boston in a town called Needham.
And then moving to New York, a different place completely, isn't it?
Well, certainly, because people in Boston are groomed to fear and despise New York. And so I was always told growing up, you know, I'd tell people I wanted to be an actor, and they'd say, well, don't go to New York, it'll just chew you up and spit you out, you know. And honestly, that's not true. My life began when I moved to New York. I went there with all kinds of trepidation. It was very much by surprise. I received a phone call to come down and audition for a show, and within the week I was living in the East Village in this illegal housing setup, doing a show that they paid me $175 a week to do. I think I got an extra $50 a week because I was the assistant to the musical director, but because I could actually write music. I mean, I could write it down. So
that's showbiz then, isn't it? That kind of money.
It was hilarious. It was
a hedonistic lifestyle for you every night, I imagine.
Yeah, I had all kinds of money to blow. No, but it was, you know, the minute I stepped down in New York, you can feel the energy in the streets, and I felt like a cloud lifted. I could suddenly see the career that I wanted. I could see the life that I had envisioned, and it was all right there. What I find interesting is, you know, cities can affect you that way. They have an energy about them, and for me, I often find that it has to do with the history. That's what speaks to me most. Some of the newer cities in the United States don't speak to me because they don't have a heritage in the mortar. And I have to say that when I first got to London, I had that same feeling that I had 8 years ago when I moved to New York. That feeling of there's this energy, there's this excitement about it because there's so much history between the bricks, you know.
This is a leading question. Which is better then, Broadway or the West End?
Oh, it's apples and oranges, really. It's too, you know, it's hard for me to say because for me London is such a beautiful city. It's so exotic to be in England and to be in Europe from our perspective. From Broadway's perspective, everybody thinks, oh, you're going to the West End. Oh my gosh, you know, it seems to be, you know, from our side of the pond, it seems to be the pinnacle of theater. I would say, you know, I just said that it was different, but really, it is the same. You know, it's the top. It's the top of the line for theater in England. Broadway is the top of the line for theater in the States, and actors are the same everywhere. You know, you just form a new family wherever you go.
I suppose it depends on your perspective, doesn't it? For us, Broadway's so exotic and exciting and showbiz, and I suppose for you over there, coming here is the same.
Yeah, it's funny. My mother's visiting now, and we wonder why anybody who lives in such a gorgeous city or such gorgeous countryside, or over in Europe and France and Italy, why would you ever want to come to the United States? Why would you ever want to come to New York when you've got cities like this? But, you know, people tell me there's a whole different type of excitement that New York or an American city has to offer that maybe you don't get here.
Now, we're going to take another piece of music in a moment from now, but first of all, tell us about the show. What's it about then?
Well, it's based on a touring theater group that is doing a musical version of The Taming of the Shrew by Shakespeare. And it is directed, rewritten, and starred in by a man named Fred Graham. And he has invited his long-divorced wife to come back and star in the show. She's become a movie star since they were divorced, and he figures he can get more audience and more money by having her come along. And in reality, you find out that they're really still in love. But he's also picked up this little chippy that he's stuck in, you know, the sexy part. That's me. That's Lois Lane, and that creates a lot of jealousy and a lot of fighting between the divorced couple.
It's a very funny show, this, and a very loud one as well, isn't it, in places?
It's loud. I guess it is. There's a lot of yelling and screaming and laughing. I mean, when you've got a shrew, she's always running around screaming, and she's chasing her sister, which is me, so I'm running around screaming, and it's hilarious. We recently put in a new lead, Rachel York, and actually a month before that we put in Carolee Carmello, and so I've had a chance to watch the show twice over, and it's funny. I mean, even though I'm in it, I sit back and I just think, these people are hilarious. And I'm not watching myself, so I can say that.
It is, and it's quite a simple show set-wise, and it leaves a lot to the imagination, and that's what's good about it, because some of the newer shows that come in, it's all about the set and the lighting, but this is a great show with funny lines and a great script.
Absolutely. I mean, the set is interesting because there's a backstage set which has to be sort of solid and iron and wood, and you know, my co-star Michael Bresk has to be able to climb up it, and then the show set has to look like it's a cheap touring production, you know. So they're just these flats that waver back and forth every time you slam a door, and I think what's nice about that is that when you don't have too many buzzers and lights going, you have a chance to really listen to the storyline and listen to the words, and with Shakespeare and Cole Porter, listening to the words is of paramount importance.
Well, I'm in the West End today here at the Victoria Palace. Kiss Me Kate is the show, Nancy Anderson's the star, and we'll take the title song from the show, Kiss Me Kate, on Rupert in the afternoon. Okay, it's just a final wrap-up if that's all right. Okay. Kiss Me Kate from Kiss Me Kate, it's on at the Victoria Palace, your chance to win tickets in a few moments from now. Try that again. Kiss Me Kate from Kiss Me Kate. It's on at the Victoria Palace here in the West End of London in Victoria. And the star of the show is Nancy Anderson. Thank you for staying with me. I keep saying that, but it's very kind of you.
I'm very happy to be here.
Can I just say you have the most showbiz doorstop in the whole of the West End. A bottle of champagne. How marvellous is that?
Well, it's a little less exciting than you might think. We get bottles of champagne as gifts, which is really nice, but I am, you know, I'm embarrassed to say this in the City of London, but I'm not that much of a drinker. So if I have a bottle of champagne, you know, unless I have guests that want the champagne, I just use it as a doorstop.
Is that an offer? You're offering me a glass, are you?
Yeah, you have a glass, I've got a bottle. I guess, you know, that would probably be more classy of me if I had glasses. I think downstairs in the star dressing room, they have champagne glasses to go along with the many bottles of champagne.
It's just a plastic cup up here, is it?
Yeah, just a Dixie cup, as we say in the States.
Nancy, I've asked all the stars I've spoken to on this tour of the West End what they would like to do if they weren't in the show they were in. What would be your favourite show at the moment if you could be in any?
It'd be in any show? Actually, it's true. I say My Fair Lady. That's been my dream role since I was a child. Unfortunately, the few times that I've had a chance to audition for it, I couldn't sing it well enough. But I think now I could.
Playing Eliza?
Playing Eliza, yeah.
It's a great role, isn't it? But can you do the Cockney accent?
Well, it's interesting. Our American version of the Cockney accent is nothing like the real Cockney accent. And one of my dear friends on the electrical staff of this show has a real Cockney accent. He speaks in Cockney rhyming slang. And I consider myself to be somebody who's pretty good at accents, as accents go, but here, well, not only is that Cockney accent so difficult, I can't even put my finger on why, but when you're suddenly surrounded by all of the different accents of the British Isles, your American version of a generic British accent no longer flies, and my ear is totally confused, so I can only speak in my own accent now.
Well, I'd like to congratulate you on your French accent during this interview. It's been very good. Would you like to audition live on air, maybe for the My Fair Lady role as Eliza? Would you like to give me a little bit of Cockney?
No, I don't think I'm not going to embarrass myself. Absolutely not.
It's an interesting role, that, because you go from Cockney to the sublime to the ridiculous, really, because you have to sing really well in the end, don't you? And very well spoken.
Yes, you absolutely do, and I think that it definitely takes an actress who's willing to tackle both sides, and certainly if I were to play it, I would do everything in my power to get that Cockney accent down perfectly.
Nancy, I'll put in a good word for you. Thank you very much for talking to us live. BBC Radio Leicester. It's Kiss Me Kate. It's on at the Victor Palace. Just come out of the train station or the tube station and keep walking. It's just there in front of you. It's a great show. And how long are you in it for?
No, sadly, I'm not in it forever, although I'd like to stay forever. They're sending me home on August 24th, so that's our last performance.
Do you think we could tempt you with another show here to stay?
Well, yes, if anybody, I'll make any offers.
There's Christmas. Maybe you'd like to do that?
That's true. There's just we have these pesky unions that who acts where when. So.
Dear, they get in the way, don't they, those people?
No,
Nancy Anderson, thank you very much for talking to us today. Lois Lane from Kiss Me Kate live.
The Alex Belfield In Conversation podcast with daisymedia.co.uk. Alex Belfield.